Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. I'm Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark, and like you, I'm a professional speaker, and I love listening to Speakernomics. Speakernomics is a professional speaker show that will help you thrive and grow speaking business so you too can change the world, one keynote session workshop and speech at a time. And on this episode, we welcome Traci Brown. She is a CSP, a body language expert, a behavior analyst, a keynote speaker, and a best-selling author. Traci, welcome to Speakernomics. I'm not lying. How are you today?
Oh, thanks for having me. I always appreciate when people tell me the truth.
That's what we'll do here. All right, now to all my speaking friends. You've developed the perfect speech. You've practiced all the blocking and staging. You've trained your voice and even nursed it with hot tea. You're ready to go. But what does your body language reveal to an audience that may go beyond you think how you're exhibiting confidence? What are meeting planners and audiences hiding in plain sight? But we're also going to talk about how you own that one word that they know it's yours and that it's true. And before we jump in, make sure to go to speakernomics.com. That's where you can find the tips, insights, and knowledge to help you become a better speaker, build a better business, and get paid to speak. Traci, let's dive in. So a lot of things that I noticed when I came into NSA several years ago, and I wanted to kind of tap into first, is this thing where I would hear often speakers reference somebody with one word, where they owned this space, if you will. And so anytime anybody would mention, I don't know, whether it was marketing or fraud detection or whatever the concept is, simplicity, honor, you name it, there was always somebody sort of attached to that. Especially in today's world, though, there's so many speakers that have come into this market. How do you go about owning that one word and really differentiating yourself as the speaker that meeting planners want to hire to cover that kind of topic?
Well, the main thing that we have to realize as speakers, and I did not fully understand how prolific this problem is until I just got back from the CSP summit, and it's still going around there, is as speakers, we have to focus on the problem that we solve, right? A lot of us, we have great solutions. Fantastic. Like, really, we can change a lot of things. If people would just listen to us, we could really make a big impact. But in marketing, people don't care how you get to that solution. They care about the problem that you solve. And so I should say in marketing, your stuff, that's what you have to focus on. And to the extent that you don't, is to the extent that you will be sitting at home instead of out speaking. Now, it turns out it works a lot better if you focus on a very expensive problem that people really want gone. And they will do anything and pay any amount of money to have this problem solved. Then you move yourself into the must-have category from the nice-to-have category. And if you can get that, the world's your oyster.
Well, how do you go about identifying then that expensive problem? Because it's not like most companies post it somewhere. I mean, there's even in a lot of their, branded stuff, they're not advertising that they have this expensive problem with their teams or with their marketplace or whatever.
Well, when I talk to friends about this, it's about understanding what problems you solve. Not, and the companies will come along that have that problem a little bit later if you position that right. Because all of us have, I think, information that we can solve a lot of different problems. You got to make a list of it. Make a list and which one is the most expensive. And guess what? If there's a line item for that, it's going to be a lot more pressing to that company or to that association. And that's when you can start to match up your marketing in your solutions with their problem.
How did you go about positioning yourself with fraud as that sort of one word, that space that you own to help others?
Well, I stumbled into it, and I knew that I was really good at detecting lies. And when I talked to some bankers, they said, you're not doing lie detection, you're doing fraud prevention, right? So simply by understanding the real problem that I was actually capable of solving, all of a sudden there was a line item and I had skills that were uncommon that were able to decrease that loss, because it's a line item for loss. It's not a revenue generator, right? So if I can help decrease that loss, and I mean, for a little bitty bank in the middle of nowhere, fraud losses per month can be around $20,000, right? And I'm talking about anywhere from hackers getting in there. I don't solve that, right? But I do solve when Martha comes in and is disputing her credit card bill because she never ordered all those chia pets from Amazon, right? That's the kind of fraud that I solve, right? A lot of fraud at banks is internal with tellers and with the pressure that managers can put on tellers, right? And these are the kind of things that I'm able to alleviate. So really, it's like my slice of fraud that I focus on is 4% of the total amount of fraud that's out there, right? So if you can, and all fraud is born of lies, right? So all of a sudden, I took this skill that I had, right, this content that I knew people liked, and attached it to a very expensive problem. And that's when everything started to change for me.
Elaborate then a little bit, because I love that you niched into what is basically, like you said, a 4% type problem.
Mm-hmm.
How did you learn to kind of stay in that lane and not, overly broaden yourself? Because you figured out that there was enough, for lack of a better phrase, meat on the bone at 4% to
Mm-hmm.
grow out a very successful career. But a lot of people would start, going wider, not necessarily deeper into solving that expensive problem. They would try to start solving
Solving
all
more.
problems.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I sat down with Roxanne Emmerich and she said, look at your website, pull everything off of it that's not fraud related. And that's your lead magnet. It doesn't mean you don't do other things. People will figure out you can do other things. That's your lead magnet. And I was nervous. I can tell you, Shark, I was nervous. And because I had a lot of really cool talks that I thought I could do, or that I knew I could do because I've been doing them. But it turns out, and when I redid that page, because I do a lot of my own web stuff, I redid it and I was sitting there and I was like, all right, do I hit update? What do I do? And I hit it, and it was shocking. The feeling that I had wasn't what I thought. I thought I was going to feel panic. And what I felt was relief at that laser focus. It was amazing. And I just leaned into it and I ran with it. And I uncovered so many other places other than just banking that have fraud that they need to investigate. There's like workers' comp, right? Of course, there's investments, there's credit unions, there's, a ton of them, right? And they all want this problem solved. So that's what I do. Now, lately I have expanded it a little bit because salespeople have figured out that buyers are liars. And so I thought it was time, really the last half of this year, to expand just a little bit and say, hey, you know what? I'm helping salespeople too. Like bring that more forward, just to give myself a little more latitude there. But it's all lie detection, right? It's all lie detection. Anything from silent disagreement all the way up to like the biggest fraud loss that I've helped solve is $22 million.
Wow.
So that'll pay my fee.
Yeah, really. I love too that you leaned into something that was a loss preventer rather than necessarily a sales generator. How did you decide to really lean into that? Because that took some real thought to move into that area as opposed to something that was strictly revenue generating.
Sure. Well, when probably the most successful person in NSA, one of the most, when Roxanne sits you down and says, "This is what you need to do," you know what? I'm gonna listen. And so that's what I did. Now I still do the revenue generating things, right? And I'm bringing those more forward. But yeah, I'm a very much about loss prevention. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great because like you said earlier, it opens new doors
Mm-hmm.
like it has with sales. So talk a little bit about what you're going to be speaking about at Thrive in Orlando in 2025.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be really fun because I am talking about the exact system and the exact questions that you need to ask yourself so that you can own one topic. And when you do it right, and I'm not going to tell you all the secrets here, but when you do it right, everything will change because you will go from a nice to have speaker to a must have speaker. And there's I think seven questions I have that you need to ask yourself. They're simply stated. They're not always simple to answer. And that will lead you to, it may be immediate or it may take a little time to percolate. But when you lean into what you come up with, like, things will change.
That's great. I'm looking forward to it. Now for a little speaking trivia. What is the scientific name for breaks or disruptions that occur in the flow of speech with filler words like and called? Back with the answer in just a moment. Before we jump back to the show, here's a moment with NSA member, mental health expert, author, and trained advocate, Tara Rolstad. Tara, what does being part of NSA mean to you and your speaking business?
NSA has been a tremendous community for me as I've built my speaking business, as my speaking business has shrunk itself during the pandemic, and now as I'm trying to rebuild my speaking business. I speak on mental health, and not being a really common topic has made it feel even more isolating at times when I don't focus on surrounding myself with community. But being a part of NSA has made it possible for me to far more quickly put together the pieces that I need for my business, to figure out, I need to focus on systems. This is what marketing looks like at its best level. And getting involved with my NSA chapter, local NSA Oregon, has made it possible for me to meet people in my own area, to be in charge of our speaker academy when we were running a speaker academy. Being a mental health speaker is my calling. It's my passion, helping people understand the experiences of families and individuals who struggle with mental health issues, helping organizations understand how to have cultures that effectively support mental health. It's my calling and my passion, but it would be almost impossible to do without my NSA colleagues.
And here's the answer. The scientific name for breaks or disruptions that occur in the flow of speech with filler words like and are called disfluencies. And now, back to the show. So I've got a question I want to ask you from a previous guest. When was the moment that you realized you were destined for this work?
That's an interesting question. And I think it was, I knew I was destined for it because I used to teach, I was like an assistant at a company where we taught NLP training, and it was time for us to go our separate ways. And I just couldn't say no. And I was like, I love this too much, because I had the opportunity to just change everything I was doing. I found out the walk from the back of the room to the front of the room is a long walk. and I made a deal with myself. I was like, look, I'm not going to do my own programs. I'm going to speak to ready-made groups. And I had to figure that out. And when I found NSA, because someone told me that you need to go to NSA, the Colorado chapter is really good. They'll teach you how to do it. And I was like, no one's going to teach me how to do this. Like, because that's that scarcity mindset and that non-abundant thinking, which I was square in the middle of with the organization that I had been with before. So I made myself a deal. I'm like, I'm going to go to NSA. And when I went there, I was like, wow, I just think if I just kind of do what they say instead of being my normal rebel renegade self, I think I got a shot at this. And it ran from there. That was back in, 2008 or so.
Well, I want to ask you, what is a question that you would like to ask a future guest on this show?
What is the worst gig you've ever done and why?
That'll be a good one, because we've all had those. All right, well then let's do a quick recap based on Traci's truthful advice. Number one, remember that it's about solving their problems. We get so lost in the solutions, but it's got to be about them, not only about us. They don't care about the sausage making process. They just want you to help them solve their problem. Number two, if you position yourselves correctly, I'm going to say it this way in a field of dreams kind of way. If you build it, they will come. And number three, when she identified a line item for loss, it led her to fraud prevention. Not everything has to be revenue generating only, which is hard for me at my heart to say. But if you look at your lead magnet and narrow that down, they'll come, they'll find you, and that will help you own that word. Traci, I'm looking forward to seeing you at Thrive in 25. Any last closing thoughts before we speak ourselves off this stage anyway?
Come to Thrive. It'll change your life. I will see you there.
Absolutely. Friends, make sure to join us at speakernomics.com and let your voice be heard. I'm Kenneth Shark Kinney, your host of the National Speakers Association's podcast, Speakernomics. And this has been another truthful and fantastic episode of the show. Thank you, Traci, for your service to NSA and for lending your voice to the show. And everyone listening, thank you for the privilege of your time. And remember, Speakernomics is a podcast where you'll learn to speak, get paid, repeat.